Okay, so with filing taxes, we talked yesterday that tax day is April 15th or the Monday, oops, that should be capital M, closest, no, Monday after, if it falls on a weekend. Okay, that's tax day. Now, tax day, this is the deadline to file your taxes without penalties and interest being added to the amount. Okay, so you can start filing taxes as early as soon as you get your W-2s. So the W-2s are paperwork that your employer sends you, and they have to get that to you by the end of January. So you technically can start filing your taxes anytime once you get your W-2 all the way up to April 15, and you're good to go. So there are lots of people that go ahead and file their taxes like in early January because their employer's on the ball and got them their W-2, or they were in a position where they could look it up. The reason why you need to have that W-2 is there's information from it that goes on the tax form. And then there are people that maybe they file it in early February or in the month of March. Okay, so filing your taxes can start as soon as you get your W-2, but your deadline is April 15 or the Monday after if it falls on a weekend. Okay. So if you don't file your taxes in time, you get charged penalties and interest. The government takes a lot. It's really expensive not to file your taxes. So you don't want to do that. But April 15th is also the deadline to file an extension on the tax return. So that means that in some cases, you need more time to pull together, the complete set of information the government wants for the tax return. Okay. So what you would do is you file an extension, but you still have to pay the amount you might owe by April 15th. So that means if you were looking over it and you went, oh crud, I'm gonna owe them like $2,500 this year, you're gonna need to make sure you pay that before April 15. And then you file the extension for the paperwork. Now, sometimes filing the extension is a helpful thing because it gives you time to pull together documents. You end up finding you owe less. Then they have to give it back to you. Sometimes it gives you time to pull together the various pieces of information and you end up finding out you owe more. Not the best, but by filing what you believed you would owe by April 15th, you are then excluded from having to pay interest and penalties on the part you didn't know you had to pay. Okay, So basically, you're making a good faith payment is what you're doing. Okay. We're going to put in about the W-2s. You can file your taxes as early as early February because employers are required to get W-2, which is tax form, tax information form, to you by no later than January 31. Okay, so they're required to get it to you by January 31. You could then start filing taxes. Some of the employers are good and they get it to you sooner, so you can file sooner. Okay. W-2 form tells things like total wages, tip wages. Some places, like waiters and waitresses, they get paid an income and tip. They're separate on the W-2 form. Deductions by employers for medical, dental, vision coverage benefits. The part that they paid for you. It also has your FICA amount. It has your state income tax amount. It has your federal income tax amount. It has Medicare amount. And there's a couple extra ones that we didn't quite talk about, but they're there. There's one called state disability insurance, SDI. It's a small pool of money that gets deducted from your paycheck to help if you are disabled and cannot work. Okay. All right. Let me think about what else might be on there. That's more considered more of a local tax than it is considered a federal tax. What else might be on there? Oh yeah, it has your employer name and address. Actually, name, address, and ID number. Because just like you, ID number, social security number, the employer has an ID number. Okay, so that's all those things that are on that W-2, which is why it's important you have it in order to be able to file your taxes. A copy of it does go to the federal government. The employer mails a copy to them. If you're doing taxes the old school way, which is with paper, they give you, it comes in multiple forms. So like they'll give you one piece of paper, but there'll be 4 versions of the W-2 kind of thing. And in the past, it's not so much anymore since they're doing a lot of electronic, but in the past, you would have to send in your paper tax return along with a paper W-2 attached to it, or with it, not attached to it. They don't want it attached, but they want it with it. But now, since there's much more of the electronic filing, they're not necessarily requiring the paper W-2. So you get the multiple copies and you just keep them all together. You keep them for your records. Okay. Let me do this. Nope, going the wrong way. Go this way. Why aren't it going backwards? I was doing Shift Tab, I swear. Maybe not. Oh, there we go. Okay. There's, for the taxes, along with this information from the W-2, there is what's called a filing status. Okay, no status. Okay. And each filing status has its own little benefits and its own little negatives. There is single. That means it's solo. You could have been married at one point, but you're no longer married. There's just you. Okay. Lousy thing. These pay the highest tax rate because they figured you're single, all your money's expendable. Well, not really, but you know, in their head that is. Okay. So your single people pay the biggest tax rate. Okay. Then you have married filing separately. And that's when the two spouses file own return and do not claim each other as dependents. Second highest tax rate. Okay, and why would that happen? Well, sometimes married couples filing separately because say it's a second marriage, you know, and you have your income and he has his income, or you have your income and your partner has their income, and you don't want them blended, and you've kept them separate for a reason, whatever reason it is, entirely a family choice. You can choose to file married separately. So you're each counted as an individual. The negative is it's the second highest tax rate because it's one step cheaper than being a single. Okay. And it could be that one, you know, like I said, second relationships, second marriages. First partner has their own real estate and their own stuff like that, and second partner has their own stuff. And if they blended them together, it might put them too high. So by keeping them separate, it keeps their taxes actually technically lower for like things like the property tax and things like that. So it is a big decision if you are married to go ahead and, you know, which way you're going to go. And it's definitely something you should talk to a tax professional about, not just a regular accountant, but one that specializes in the tax laws, because there are a lot of them and they're crazy. So, you know, but so there are different and varying reasons why they would want to do that. And like I said, usually it's because if they did combine, they become higher bracket and more taxes, where separately they might stay below some levels. That you should get married because you care about the person. Don't make it about the taxes. You know, so then there is married filing jointly. Okay. That is two on same form. So one is considered dependent of the other. Okay. I should probably put two spouses. So we understand two what? Two spouses on. Sorry, typos on same form. Okay. They are second best. I mean, they're the middle tax rate. There are actually two that are better off than them. Okay, there are two that are better off than them. One is a temporary better off and one is a permanent better off. And then there's one that people are going to be taking advantage of this year, sadly, and you'll understand in a second. Next one is called head of household. Okay, this is a single parent. Okay, that's the single parents. Best tax rate permanent. Okay. It is one of the reasons why there are some single parents that choose to stay as single parents and have a partner that is not their spouse. And that is their family choice. Because when you're a single parent, they give you the lowest tax rate because they realize you're raising children and children are not inexpensive. They're kind of really expensive. You may or may not be getting help from the child's other parent. So they cut them the biggest slack. Okay. Last one is called qualifying widow. Means widow or widower. What's the difference between a widow and a widower? Do you guys understand the difference? What's a widow? What's a widow? Yes, it's the wife when the husband dies. The widower is the reverse. So when they write the paperwork up, they say widow parentheses So it could be for the female or the male. Okay, so qualifying widow, widower, with dependent children. So this one is this is a semi-permanent. It kind of matters how old your kids are, how long this one lasts. Okay. Both of these ones at the bottom are linked to your status as a parent and being responsible for a parenthood and all that comes with it money-wise. So they cut the most slack to those people because they're carrying a heavy load. Okay. The qualifying widower, it's called semi-permanent because it lasts for, I think, 2 years, and then you change over to being a head of household if you haven't gotten remarried or whatever. They get the best rate when they're raising children and their spouse has died, but they only give them a 2-year window and then they switch over to head of household. Okay. So they do still get the best rate overall. It's just the best on a semi-temporary kind of situation. Okay. So this is didn't mean to be capital. Best rate, but lasts for 2 years. And then they change to head of household. All right. Does that make sense? Questions? Any questions? All right, turn it in. And let me go get